Welcome into our first in-person Lion Legend feature. Today we're talking with a former UNA basketball player that lettered at UNA from 1968 to 1971. He still ranks 11th on the school's all-time scoring list and holds the school record for most consecutive starts, a member of the UNA Athletic Hall of Fame. We're joined, happy to be talking with Colonel Don Faint. Colonel Faint, thank you for taking the time to chat with us. And first off, how nice is it just to be on campus right now?
It's great. The campus is growing and it's beautiful.
We're going to jump all throughout your career at North Alabama, your military career as well. But when you think back to the University of North Alabama, just what does UNA mean to you?
Well, basketball was my path to college, and UNA was the place. And great times. And my wife and I were married between sophomore and junior year and lived in the married students' apartments, which have now been torn down. So you feel a little old when you come back to campus. They were brand new. Those apartments were brand new my junior year here, but now they're gone.
So let's go back to 1968 from Huntsville, Alabama. Take us through your journey to UNA. At Florence State at the time, how did you end up playing basketball here?
I was recruited by UNA from Billingham, Coach Billingham at the time, and came, visited campus, liked what I saw, and said, that'll work, and signed up.
Ed Billingham, head coach at North Alabama. What do you remember about Coach Billingham?
His personality, and he just some of his quirks were, you kept, I guess we kept focused on some of those, but he worked hard, and a lot of guys didn't like him. I liked him. He was fine with me. And then he brought in an assistant coach, I guess that was junior year. And things changed a lot, and we started winning a lot more games. And we took our beating as freshmen and sophomores. We gave a lot more than we took as juniors and seniors. So that's about what I remember about all that. And some of our practices were rather unique, but I came from Butler High School in Huntsville, and we'd won the state tournament as a junior, and I think we won again as seniors. I think we lost in the semis that year. So Coach Rogers over there was a different coach, and adjusting was for me, it was a little different, but it worked.
So we're inside of Flowers Hall for this interview. Flowers Hall was not around when you played. Take us back to some of the various venues that you guys called home during your career.
Well, we didn't have a gym, so we played in the old Coliseum downtown. And that was an interesting venue. It was sort of a home field advantage. There was a dead spot, one place in the floor out there. You dribble the ball, it didn't bounce very well there. So as a home team, that was sort of our advantage playing in the old Coliseum. And but we had it was as far as playing there, it was a distance to to practice and all that. You couldn't walk across campus and go to the gym and practice. You had to get in the car and drive to get down there. So that was the big negative as far as I was concerned. But other than that, it was okay. I mean, the gym you got now is very nice. It was supposed to be finished, I think, my junior year. Well, it didn't happen. I never played in it. So I don't know how long it was delayed, but several years, I understand.
Okay, now we have some photos that we want to look over with you and see what kind of memories that come to you. And one of the first ones we want to look at, in your career, you were one of the top rebounders in school history, over 1,200 career points, as we have already talked about. But another school record that you hold is most career personal fouls. As you look at that, just what sort of player do you remember yourself being?
Well, I wasn't as big as a lot of these guys. I was some of these guys 3 or 4 inches taller, and I really felt that every rebound that went up was mine. And if you had to move some guys out of the way to get there, so be it. They got moved out of the way. Sometimes you got a foul. And those were, I guess, well earned.
With the fouls, there's a story, a game against Birmingham Southern, a particular brawl, if you will. Take us back to that.
Well, there was a game at their place, and it was pretty ugly. The game was, well, it was home cooking for sure, and they had a coach that was inciting a little, well, I won't say anything. Can't say something nice, don't say anything about him. But anyway, he and the officials were horrible. It was the worst officiating I've ever seen, but it got rough in the second half, about halfway through the second half. And game got out of hand there, and we kept going, and it finally ended up in a brawl. And it was ugly, and the coach came running on the floor, and I don't know whether Scott or one of the guys put him flat on his back. And police came on the floor, and they were swinging nightsticks at players, and my older brother and father were there, and they came out to help and ended up getting arrested. And it was ugly. And their coach it was all him. He instigated that whole thing, but we ended up getting everybody rounded up and getting everybody home that night. It was a long night, and I think anybody that was there will remember that well. It was something that's the worst of the worst. The officiating was horrible. The home team was looking for trouble, and I guess we ended up giving them trouble.
Next thing I want to pass over to you is a roster, and you can glance through that, a team photo as well. I'll pass over your way. You talk about some of the teammates you played with. Tommy Ledbetter, the late Larry Snuffy Smith, 2,000-point scores, 2 Hall of Famers as well. But what do you remember about some of the players you see in those pictures?
Scott and Larry and I all started as freshmen. Tommy joined us our sophomore year. And so we all came, and of course Mike Bacon was the second guard on the team. Tommy was the center, and Scott and I played, I guess I played power forward and he played the other forward. Larry was the shooting guard, and Mike Bacon was do everything else guard. So that was sort of the team, and of course Odd Andrews there. Ott was also one of and the rest of these guys were underclassmen and on our team. But Larry and Scott and I had been together since freshmen, and Mike, and I think Mike joined us sophomore year. He may have been, and then of course Tommy joined in sophomore year.
Senior year, you guys go 17-7 in the 1970-71 season, and some records were set during that season. Here's a team photograph where you guys had set a school record. At that point, it was 8 wins in a row, stretched it out to 11, and you guys also, for the longest time, you still do hold the school record for points per game at 92 points per game. That team, just how good were you guys? What was the offense like?
Well, we had changed from a slow game during our junior year, and as a senior, we played a very fast game. Get up and down the floor and run, and that was a lot what led us to this success. We changed the offense dramatically, and getting up and down the floor, and you get up and down the floor constantly, there's a lot of opportunities to score. So when the ball went up, of course, Larry would take off. It was up to Tommy and I and Herb to get a rebound, and Larry was already headed to the other end of the floor. So that was what led to the big scores, and we did play a very fast game.
After enlisting after college, you go on to become an Army Ranger. What was the path like to becoming a Special Forces?
Well, When I was commissioned as RA, regular Army, I had to go to I was commissioned as an intel officer, but I had to do an infantry detail for at least a year. So I went to the infantry school and all that. And then while I was there, our PMS had signed me up for jump school and ranger school. Those are the schools that are at Fort Benning. Ranger school is probably the toughest one the Army has. And you go to that, it's about 8 weeks, as I remember, and you come out, and I lost about 20 pounds when it was out, and so that's what earned you your Ranger tab. So that's where the Ranger comes from. And those days we didn't have Ranger units. Now the Rangers have come back, I understand, in the Army as a unit in and of themselves, but in those days Ranger was just a personal qualification.
Take us through some of the highlights of your military career.
Well, I had the opportunity in the military to, I guess, command is the thing you remember most, where you're commanding troops, company command, 150 people, battalion command, 550 or so, brigade command, close to 1,000 or maybe a few more, but it's all the people. And some of the highlights, I guess, was my time in Special Forces. You got to really, as a Green Beret, you got to really do some interesting things, go places, do things that a lot of soldiers don't get to do. And the training I got was superb in many fields.
A master parachutist as well. Take us through what goes into becoming such a great honor.
Well, master parachuter just means you've been around a long time, made a lot of jumps. I think I jumped I was over 100 military jumps, and you go through, basic airborne training, and then to be a jump master, you have to go to another school and graduate from it. So you have to be those two, and then just do a lot of jumps.
From Desert Storm to the calls in Panama, what are some of the other things that stand out from some of your service time?
Well, Desert Shield, Desert Storm was probably the highlight in a lot of ways. We deployed to the desert. I took a battalion of about 600 people and grew, and we got a lot of replacements there. We moved into the desert with nothing. I mean, a few tents and whatever our basic equipment was. We ended up finding a camp and building a camp to live in, and surviving in 115, 120 degree heat is a challenge. And then you ready, and you get your equipment comes in from the port and the airfield, and it's a scramble to get all your equipment, and coming in scattered over months really, and get it all and get ready, and then you sit and then wonder, what are we going to do? We're going to sit here forever, or we're going to do something. And finally the words leaks out, we're getting ready to launch this thing. And of course then the tempo picks up, the morale picks up, and I'd probably say excitement picks up. And the troops are ready to go. They know they're ready. They know it's going to be dangerous. There's things going to happen. But I think everybody's attitude was, we're tired of sitting in the desert. Let's go take care of business so we can go home. And that's what we did.
From your time as a student athlete then to becoming a leader in the Army like that, just what was it like being a leader over so many men with all your different various leadership roles?
There's always challenges for a leader, but the thing you learn is, I think, the best lesson you learn is you've got a team, and you got subordinate leaders, and you've got to work with those subordinate leaders and train them, make sure they're all in sync. And it flows down, from a brigade commander as a colonel all the way down to that young private. You got to have that chain of command that goes all the way down, and that chain of command has to be working in concert and focused, and all with the same mission sense of urgency, I guess. And that, leading America's soldiers is a real honor. You got these youngsters, and you got some guys that are older than you are, and you got a sergeant major that's been around, nothing new for him. and leading that group of individuals is an honor. It's a real honor. Challenges. Some of the youngsters can really challenge you, but it's an honor.
As we wrap this up, just sort of tell UNA fans where you're located and what you do with your time now.
Well, I live in Huntsville, same town that I grew up in. I've retired from the Army. I retired from industry. And now my wife keeps me busy with her task. I'm actually enjoying retirement and staying busy with retirement.
Well, Colonel Faint, we certainly appreciate you coming over. And
I
giving us your
appreciate
time.
it. And go Roar Lions.